I had a great COO I worked with who said slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Love it. The business world has all sorts of ideas that are just wrong. The hustle culture is one of those things. It doesn't work.
You've come to a quick realization that people are actually what make the business special.
When our focus was on productivity, culture suffered. If you want a great culture, people have to know the why.
You think that if you're not doing or deciding, you're kind of, wasting time, quote unquote, but planning. How much of the week is spent on that?
I honestly think that you're like in a 75% plan mode when you're leading. If I'm doing everything, who's leading? Who's actually saying where we're going and putting a direction?
My name is Nick Madden, the CEO of Scent, and I'm here with Jeremy Aranda on Breaking the Barrier podcast. I'm in the Spirit Juice studios right now, and we had a great conversation today talking about faith and family, AI applied to the healthcare space, lots of topics, can add a lot of value to you. Thanks for being with us. So Jeremy, I've known you through the last two companies that you founded, but you have a family of companies that you've built, some of which we're going to dive in today. The last two, Life on Belay and Interlace. They're just unique, impressive in their own respects, super different companies, but have a lot of the same kind of foundation and formation in blending faith and business. And so I'd love to just go back and rewind the clock a little bit. For you, what broke the barrier, or what things have happened in your life experience that have broke the barrier between faith and work?
Broke the barrier. I don't know that there ever was a barrier. So that might make me a little different.
No, yeah. So what did that upbringing look like that had no barrier?
So my background, theology, philosophy, and music, which does not put you necessarily in business, although I thought it was fantastic for business. So I started out in ministry. I worked with college age and high school kids, really in evangelization, drawing them to Jesus. I did that for a long time. I also taught high school kids for 7 years, which was wonderful. And I'm a giant nerd. So I have 5 kids, and my wife and I, in order to support the 5 kids on the side, I've always done technology, building databases and systems, and doing some consulting. And then in 2011, went on my first entrepreneurial venture with my dad and my brother. And we built our first company together called Mission Matters Group. And so I realized that I thought I was kind of putting the ministry here and saying this is the main thing, but really it's all the same, right? So I dove in and found out I love starting companies and I love building businesses.
Awesome. So so you've had this background in education and formation. You've got a creative mind, and
I'm a nerd.
And you're a nerd, so you're interested in tech. And so when you start to build these businesses and go into business with your father, what did you see as an opportunity that blended those two worlds? Some people see it as like, hey, I'm gonna make some money over here to fund the rest of my life, but like you're not seeing it through that lens. You saw this integrated world where you see an opportunity. So what did you see? Yeah,
so maybe the mission of the business also follows this, but we wanted to leverage technology and strategy at the service of mission. So our clientele were all nonprofits who were meeting people who were in hard spaces. Right? You name it, right? It could be addiction. It could be they're dealing with some sort of a disability, or they're serving an underserved population. And so we were trying to build tech that supported caring and building systems of care for those people. And so it was there from the beginning. I would say the way the barrier got broken is you fail a lot, right? You try things and you're like, oh, we're going to build it like what everyone tells you is the regular business. And so you start measuring the wrong things, and you start doing the wrong things and realizing that it just doesn't work. And then quickly we recognized that the most valuable thing we had were people. And so we started pouring into culture and pouring into people and making lots of business mistakes, but the culture was so strong that the team rallied behind and figured it out, and we kept going, and lots of other ventures were spun out from there, and it was awesome.
I love that. And we're going to double click on culture here in a minute, because I think it's soft and squishy in people's minds, but it's a concrete and a very real thing in the kingdom. Mm-hmm. Just a note here, doing business with family. It's like a great dream. You're like, oh man, I would love to do business with my, dad theoretically, but but practically, what did business with family look like for you, and what advice would you give?
Messy.
What advice would you?
Like messy. So let's start here. My dad and my brothers and I are all still crazy close. In fact, all of our family is. Especially the first years in business together were really hard, because there's just all the lines blend and blur. So for it to go well, you have to be courageous to speak the unspoken, right? To lean in on areas that are broken, places where people are struggling. And we didn't do that well at the beginning. We got better as we went along.
Meaning you kind of swept things under the rug early
yeah,
on.
you just
You're
kind
like,
of
oh,
ignore
we'll figure
it.
it out.
And there's dynamics of like, you have dad and your sons, and that's a different dynamic than when you come in and now you're jointly working on something together. So we all love each other. My dad's retired now. I continue to work with my brother. My brother's fantastic. He's one of my best friends in the world, and I would choose him to work with over anyone.
Yeah,
he's amazing.
Is there any caution if someone's thinking about doing business with family or thinking about bringing a family into business? Yeah, what would you say look for, or is there something that you would say don't do business if this?
Don't do business if you can't let all the crap go. So like we had to have lots of conversations and be really transparent and hit things head on, which again, we didn't do at the beginning. So there was a lot of heartache in there too.
Yeah.
But once we started doing that, if you're not willing to just be candid and also realize that you're going to be wrong a lot, if you're really arrogant, don't go into this with a family. It'll ruin it.
Yep. Thanks for joining us. I know you hear this all the time from all different podcasters, but if you could like and follow us, it's a big deal. It helps us make more content like this. More people see it. We beat the algorithm. We can reach more Catholic entrepreneurs, help you break the barrier, bring your faith into business, and build something beautiful for the Lord. So please like and subscribe. It'll go a long way. Super appreciate it. I'd like to take a moment to share about our upcoming Sent Summit. It's going to be in Denver from September 8th to the 11th. And we're going to be gathering 600 top Catholic entrepreneurs, investors, and philanthropists to come together for conversation, for speaking, for community. We have great speakers lined up. We've got Arthur Brooks kicking off as one of the keynotes. We'd love to see you there. If you're interested, check out our website to learn more details. Yep. So you're doing business with family. You're building a tech solution for the nonprofit space.
Yeah.
And you've come to a quick realization that people are actually what make the business special. Maybe just take me back there. What did the culture look like in your company? And let's put some teeth to culture.
Yeah. So one, we're remote. So that makes culture infinitely harder. We spent a lot of time thinking that people need to interact. And so when our focus was on productivity, culture suffered. When our focus all of a sudden went that people are more productive when they're happy, then all of a sudden we said, how do we build real relationships? How do we give people time to connect? How do we pour into more than just their work life, but into their families and help them have work-life balance? And then what we get is their A game. And so I remember reading a book. They were talking about like the most productive work week. And I was reading through this book, and we have all this culture stuff we're trying to create, not knowing what we're doing.
Yeah.
The book talked about the ideal work week being 32 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what a waste, right? Like this is so stupid, right? Until
yep.
we started bringing people's work hours from 60 down, and all of a sudden it started shrinking and we got closer to 40. And I'm like, we're getting more out of everyone, and they're happier, and we're having more fun. So I think there's something about, and again, culture isn't all about having fun, but culture is intentional, and it's formed because you're intentional. And early on, we weren't intentional. We just kind of were working.
Yeah.
And we were trying to do, like, the hustle culture idea is just a load of crap.
Yeah.
Right? Like you work harder and harder and harder, and then all of a sudden it pays off in the long run. No, it doesn't. You end up losing marriages. You end up having broken relationships. You end up like making stupid decisions. So when we began to say, let's just be intentional about having real relationships, it was awesome. And practically, we started using a version of EOS, right, and implementing EOS in conjunction with things that I'd learned in ministry. And we decided to start paying for the entire company, who was virtual, to all fly to one place together every quarter. And gathering every quarter made a huge difference in person. We began to do things like we'd have a beer 30 And they were random. They would just show up on everybody's calendar. It would say beer 30, like 3:30 in the afternoon on one day. And people would show up, get their favorite drink, and we'd just hang out, right? Which seem like, oh my gosh, what a waste of money, but they're not. Because when people have real relationships, when things get hard, they band together and do amazing things.
Yes. Yes. I love that. Did you do anything to orient people to that culture as they came on? Because the people the builders listening to this are practical. So like when I hear that, I'm like, okay, note, hey, quarterly, like our company gets together as a team twice a year. Yeah. I'm like, what would it take to do it quarterly? That's a good challenge. I just heard that. So what are you seeing practically with it?
Okay. Yeah. So I would say Mission Matters Group, which again, this is real early for
2011.
Me. 2011 is when the company was founded.
Yeah.
And we really began building 13 kind of teams.
Yeah.
But I'll go further. I don't think we did it well while I was there. Onboarding, that is. We had culture. Actually, our culture got wonderful. But the onboarding piece, we didn't. Life on Belay, which is a nonprofit that for 5 years I was at and founded. That one we did it really well. So we started out when someone shows up, we are just very clear that we feel like most cultures in work are toxic and that people come out needing to heal. And so we would tell them in their onboarding that the very first thing we wanted them to do was to read. And we would hand them a stack of books that we purchased that we feel like all are relevant. And we would say, the only thing you're going to do for your first week is you're going to read and you're going to meet in one-on-ones with all of the staff. And people just wanted to know who you were. So there was literally no practical work that was done at all. And their first month of onboarding is slow, which drives, I know some people nuts because they're like, again, you're wasting all this money. They would come in so lit up and alive after that first month. And the pace they worked at wasn't coming from a hustle culture. It was coming out of an abundance of rest, right? And then they could do something real. So we would give them one of my favorite books, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry.
John Mark, right?
John Mark Homer, yeah.
Yep.
And we would give them things like that to read, and then we'd pour into them.
Yep.
And then we would teach them their job.
Yes.
Right, of whatever it was that we needed them to do.
Yes. I had a great COO I worked with who said slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Love it.
And it's deeply true. It's like,
it is.
I don't know, people go from one job to the next, or they're entering a company that's growing fast and that's why they're hiring. There's not a breath. One of my good business partners, Sam Mazzarelli, took a week for a silent retreat before starting at Cent. And I was like, that's wisdom right there. You're building the wisdom into the culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think to even go further, if you want a great culture, people have to know the why. Like, what is the why behind your business? And so we would orient people to the vision, and they would probably get that orientation 3 times in that first month. 3 different ways, 3 different people. We'd be walking through why we have policies that we do, how they tie in. And we spent a lot of time on core values. In fact, we use the core values as kind of a self-reflection for them. How are you in each of these areas, right? Do you live these out? Because this is part of our expectation is if you're going to be here, right, you're going to have to dive in on core values and live them out because they're going to be part of your reviews. And so culture, again, the onboarding piece is culture is taught. It is like from the very beginning, you got to go at it.
I love that. And even just you saying 3 different people share the vision. I think so much. It's like, oh, hey, founders up there sharing the vision. It's like, wait a minute. It actually gets powerful when somebody else shares the exact same why behind why you do what you do. And it gets reiterated like a drum, like a drum beat.
And you hear people's life. Like that's the other part. We started having our staff share their own stories because people get connected. And when you get connected, like in a real authentic way to people, you're willing to bend over backwards for them.
Yes.
And you get real friendship,
Yes. I love it.
Awesome.
No, I love it. And then we could hang out with culture and unpack this, for a long time. So you've built with family, you've built this culture, you've seen that sort of way of looking after people and leading people bear so much fruit that it's almost like a multi-tool that you can use in different business contexts. We'll get to your current business world now, but you've started forming leaders, and by now you've coached hundreds of people through business. So I'd love to just hang out with the coach hat on for a minute. Where do you see intention Catholic entrepreneurs check their faith at the door?
Oh man. I think the business world has all sorts of ideas that are just wrong. They're just flat out wrong.
Like what? Yeah, what
they're
comes
not
to
even
mind? Yeah.
wrong in the sense of morally. They're wrong in the sense of they just don't work.
Ineffective.
They're ineffective, right? The hustle culture is one of those things, right? It doesn't work. I meet lots of leaders who spend 60 to 80 hour work weeks, sometimes more, and they are just pushing. And when you ask them why, they'll give you an answer, and they're sincere here. But their answer is, I'm providing, right? Which is a beautiful, important thing that we have to do. Like, I'm providing for my family.
It's latched onto truth.
That's right. So there's something in it, but it's twisted.
Yeah.
And what they don't realize is that they've misprioritized a lot of times the needs of their family. Families need fathers or mothers' presence.
Yep.
Like, that's actually more important than a lot of money. And so we begin to push to provide something that we think is important, and it is to a degree, but we do it over something more important. And so the faith gets checked at the door because now this need to provide causes me to make decisions always in a business framework.
Yeah.
Right. And so we begin to make compromises, and they're small at first, right? Small little things. And then eventually that can turn into big decisions, right? That have repercussions that destroy marriages and families. And so they forget to pray, right? Like, they're not bringing actually business decisions before the Lord.
Yeah.
We're too fast. We're told that we have to be really, really fast in all things. Like, a great leader is decisive. Well, there's some truth in that, right? Leaders are decisive, but not because they just make fast decisions. It's because they've spent so much time praying, thinking, and discerning that the decisions are clear.
Yes. Let's dive into prayer for a minute, because I think this is like it's on both of our hearts. It's something we care so deeply about. From your own experience, what has your prayer life looked like as you've applied it in business? What are some of the habits? What are some of the things? Like, just, I don't think, sometimes often we're shown how to pray these memorized prayers as Catholics. Like, we have these set prayers, and you'll talk to someone and they'll say, oh, I pray the rosary every day. What you're talking about is a more interior, deeper communion with the Lord, where you're sitting and listening and making time in silence. And there's a texture to the prayer life you're describing. Can you maybe just describe what your prayer life looks like?
With the caveat that it has a lot of work to go. Sure.
Great. Yeah.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Right now, prayer life looks like this. I wake up at 5 a.m. There's an intentionality because my house with 5 children is loud, so I need quiet. And I want to begin the day with our Lord. So I typically spend an hour. That hour is all not just doing one thing. I sit down, I invite the Holy Spirit in at the beginning, and just take some moments of silence to breathe and just be with our Lord. From there, I follow St. Teresa of Avila's advice, which is she always came to prayer with some sort of spiritual reading, right? She's like, my mind's so distracted. I go all over the place.
Love
so
it.
I need something to focus. And so I bring scripture or some sort of spiritual book in where I do a meditation and I pray. I do it in a kind of a Lectio style where I read very slow. And when something strikes me, I sit with it and I have a conversation with our Lord and then go further. And usually I'm reading it a few times. It takes a real act of the will to go through things multiple times and just keep asking, like, Lord, what do you have for me? It's not easy. Sometimes I am distracted out the wazoo. And every single time that I read something, all of a sudden I'm like, how in the heck did I get to? And you name it. It's a work thing. It's a sport thing. It's a whatever thing.
Definitely.
Right? But you just gently remind yourself and come back and be like, all right, I'm supposed to be praying right now. And you come back. I spend time praying intentionally for our whole family, extended family, future spouses of my kids. For the intentions, I've got a whole list of people who've asked me to pray. So there's a period of intention, right, where I'm asking the Lord really to bless and lead and with all of these people. And then at the end, there's praise and thanksgiving, right? Like if we don't recognize our blessings, we're going to have a problem. Like my own heart doesn't work when I'm not grateful.
Yes.
And so to find space to do that. So all of that going through that easily is an hour
Yes.
to go through all of that. But I don't think prayer happens just in the morning. St. Paul says, pray unceasingly. At first I was like, what the heck is praying unceasingly?
Right.
Until I realized that everything that's hard in my day could be offered. And so there are little prayers that happen throughout the day, right? All of a sudden someone walks in and I'm super annoyed. And it'll be like, okay, Lord, help me to actually assume the best about this person, right? Or help this person have a better day. Or Lord, just keep my mouth shut, whatever it is.
Yep.
And there's also in every decision trying to cultivate a seeking God's will first. So one of the practical things that's helped me not make bad decisions is when I'm faced with one, taking a moment just to take a breath and say, come Holy Spirit, guide me. And it's literally that fast.
Mm-hmm.
And it slows me enough to cause me to reconsider and sit through it. And is this something I can make now? Or do I actually need to delay this decision for a real reason to discern?
Mm-hmm.
So there's, we pray as a family. We pray at dinners.
Yep.
At the end of the day, our whole family gathers. We pray a decade of the rosary and intentions. My wife and I pray together before bed. We pray before all of our meetings at work. This one probably throws a lot of people, but we have a culture that's wide open. And so before we start stuff, lots of different staff members lead prayer.
Yeah.
And so there's prayer literally woven out throughout the day.
Yes.
Because we need to be reminded. It's not because God's demanding of us.
Yes.
But it's because there's a gift that happens when we sit before him and we're like, help, I need you. And he keeps us focused that way.
I love it. Just thanks for painting the texture there, because I think it's you've spent decades developing a deep prayer life. For someone who's in the early stages of building a business and thinking of an hour every single morning and then a woven prayer routine through the day is pretty aspirational. It's a mountaintop that looks pretty hard to climb. What practical advice do you have for a business owner who you've already got the habit of, hey, I'm going to wake up and work hard for this thing because I'm driven to provide and I'm driven for the mission that this business does.
Yeah.
But what are those first couple of moves you'd recommend making?
Super simple. Find 15 minutes every day. Everyone can find 15 minutes at the start of the day. Just begin that way. If you're married, pray with your spouse, right? If you have kids, pray with your kids, right? Be intentional with it. Even if it's awkward and they rebel at first and they're like, whatever, just keep doing it, right? It'll happen. And then make it simple. Make it something as, all right, I used to set an alarm at noon, and that was the only time I prayed during the day. And I'd be like, Lord, I tried to give you the second half like I tried to give you the first half.
Yep.
I'd be like, okay, here we go.
No, I love it.
So, just little things.
It's amazing how I think we put our personal, quote unquote, personal life in these buckets, but the practices that get us to dial in on the work side, making time for it, setting an alarm for it, time blocking for it.
We do it all the time.
Yeah, we do it all the time. And because we care a lot and we get things done. You set an alarm for 12 noon because you cared about prayer and you wanted to weave that in. It's the same habit applied.
And I'll give you even more practical. I think everything that we do in life, if we're going to be excellent at it, requires discipline. Work, prayer, doesn't matter what it is. It requires discipline. And it requires space. So if we carve out the morning and we carve out the end of the day, carve out the middle, whatever it might be, we do the same thing for work, right? Even on just the business side, I'm constantly coaching leaders. What time do you stop your day? And they're like, most of them are like, well, I try to stop at 5 or 5:30. And then I keep on going. I'm like, great. And I'm going to give you a challenge for this week. Stop at 3:30. They're like, what? I'm not telling you to stop working. At 3:30, I want you to stop any meetings and I want you to review your day and plan for the following day, just for this week. And all of a sudden, they get really productive for the whole week.
Yep.
And they're done by 5 o'clock, which they intended to be before.
Yes.
Because they're planning their time, they're working their plan, they're disciplined, right? They now have already cleared their mind so they can be present when they walk home to their kids and their family, right? So it's just a matter of structure and discipline. And it's not easy. I say that simply.
No, it's not.
But it's really, really hard when you have a habit of running fast.
That's right.
It's really hard.
Oh, I've experienced this, and I'm not perfect on this front. It's something I struggle with because I'm a doer. I'm practical. How much time do you think if you're leading a growing business, you think that if you're not doing or deciding, you're kind of wasting time, quote unquote. But planning and reflecting and thinking is what you're describing here, and making space for that. How much of the week is spent on that?
Should be or is?
Should be. Yeah.
So I honestly think that you're like in a 75% plan mode when you're leading.
75%
I really do.
plan mode.
So
that's going to shock some people. They're going to hear that and be like, wait, what?
Look,
that's great. And it's liberating.
Well, think about this. If I'm doing everything, who's leading? Who's actually saying where we're going and putting a direction? And this would not been how I did early on stuff, right? Early on, I would have been like, Josh, my brother, and I would have been like, let's just go get this done. We'll knock it out. We can go faster than everybody. We're gonna crush it. I remember winning a multi-million-dollar project with the two of us, and he and I and my cousin, who was also working for us at the time, we pulled an all-nighter for a pitch that we got, and we built this thing out and like came in and we won the pitch. We're like, yeah. We were wrecked for like a week.
Yeah.
Right. And the amount of suffering my poor wife and like family had to go through as you were no longer present. Right. Yeah. And we won it. So we felt validated, yet there's a long-term consequence. Right. So now my new company, it's not that way. Right. I am delegating quickly the things that everyone can do. And I'm holding on to direction and vision, which requires time and energy.
Yeah.
Right. And thought, and really, really working to drive, how do we get there? And the thought and the reflection get us there faster. This is the crazy part. By going slower, by finding time to be healthy and thoughtful and reflective and disciplined, everything comes together faster.
Yes. I'm going to challenge or shed a light on an aspect of that.
Yeah.
Because I think you and I enjoy this stuff. So you've got an entrepreneur who comes to you, or you're coaching yourself, 15 years ago. There's certain industries, I'm giving the steel man here. Mm-hmm. There's certain industries that you get into with hustle. And I might be telling myself, you get into with hustle, or the business model isn't really made to support, delegating to the floor off the bat. What pushback might you have on that world? If I'm listening to this, I'm like, man, our business just isn't that way. Our business model just wouldn't support that. Like, those are like
totally appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think it's legitimate to say that different industries do require different amounts of planning and time. Building a business, though, if you're the guy, you're the woman up there, it actually requires the same amount of thought. Yeah. Now, maybe the number 2 person, that might be different, right, in different spaces, but it still requires planning and thought. And if you are someone who's in a hybrid, which I've been there too, right, where there's like 3 of you, and so you are doing a lot, right?
Visionary and integrator, sort of.
Right, and you're the whole company too, by the way.
Yeah.
Right, so at that point, you do have work and there is hustle. But then the question becomes, like, how are you putting boundaries on that? Yeah. How are you making sure that the hustle doesn't overtake the time for planning and thought that's going to stop you from going the wrong direction or chasing the shiny object or the big deal or all of these things?
Yeah.
That you need the thought and the planning still. It may not be 75% because there's 4 of you, or it's very, very small.
Yes.
But it's definitely 20.
Yeah.
I don't know how you could function without it being.
No, and for people who are for Catholic builders who are looking to disrupt industry, like, that takes a level of step back and see what's happening.
Yeah.
And what you're describing, I think it makes sense. And it's, over 50% of time on the thinking, planning, forethought, mapping out landscapes. Like, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. There's a reason that most startups fail, right? You hustle real hard. You try to get it up going real quick and it doesn't work, right? There's a place for hustle, but it's when you have clear vision.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that. I'd love to just dive into Interlace for a minute here, because
Sure.
It's so exciting. And maybe using that as a segue, but really what I'd love to kind of see through your eyes is what industries need to be redeemed.
All of them.
And all of them. And what it looks like. Because I think that when, like, people are going to hear that. What do you mean by redeem? Like, I'd like to paint the picture a little bit of what it exists now, and where you're like, man, the lens of Christ applied here would look like this.
Sure.
So we'll maybe start with Interlace and dance our way across the board.
Okay. So
what is it? What do you do? Yeah.
Interlace is a healthcare data analytics company. So
sounds complicated.
Yeah, the answer is yes to that. But let's start with how we got here. Healthcare is broken, right? I think everybody knows that. It's a business. It's not necessarily about health. But data doesn't have a morality to it. Data is just data. And so we have tons of data in this country around healthcare, particularly around healthcare insurance claims records, right? Where anybody can actually go out and buy these records, de-identified. So there's no personal information in it. But you can then study healthcare trends and all sorts of stuff. So what we've done is we have compiled all sorts of healthcare claims records. It's a 17 terabyte database that we have an entire tech stack layered on top of it. And we have a team of people who are data engineers and analysts. We have clinicians, right? So people who are doctors and who do billing and all this stuff. And our goal is to leverage that data for decision making and to make better outcomes. Like, our goal is to change the way we do healthcare, right? And so practically speaking, what we do is, I'll give you one example. Let's imagine that
this
you're
is super
company.
interesting. I mean, I'm a father, and I'm health decisions come up all the time. Like,
Right.
you get this, and I'm leading a
My
business.
wife just went through cancer.
Yes.
Right. And one of the things that actually, let's use that example. One of the things our data could do is we could say, interesting. Let's go find everyone who looks like my wife. Now, we don't know who they are, but we can say everyone who has breast cancer and had her particular type of breast cancer, because we have diagnosis codes and procedure codes and all this stuff. And then we could say, let's look at all the different types of treatments and which ones had the better outcomes. And we can study stuff like that. So it's applicable for any type of research.
That wasn't being done prior?
It is. People
Okay.
are doing this kind of stuff, but there's a huge gap in volume, right? And it's expensive. Like, we spend millions of dollars buying data.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not cheap.
Yeah.
And it's not cheap to do the research or hire the talent that can then take all that data, break it down into meaningful bits of information.
Yes.
And make strategic decisions off of it. So our goal is to take this real world data, what's happening, and apply it to health leaders to help them make better decisions. Better decisions about, are drugs safe? Better decisions about, does this shoulder replacement new device work? Better decisions, right, when it comes to, hey, I'm actually a self-insured company, right? But I have faith and morals, and I want to know if my self-insured policies for my people are going to things I morally disagree with. Like, we can do all that. We can do costing. We can do tons of things. So here's a business use case. There are lots of others doing healthcare analytics, but we can redeem it by saying, we're going to come in and we're going to look how we glorify God with it, how we actually leverage it to protect vulnerable populations who are being hurt, how we leverage it to improve health outcomes, right? And like, one of the things I would love to lean into is on maternal morbidity, right? For mothers, right? How do we talk about when a mom is pregnant and there's plenty of avoidable things we could have done and should have seen and we didn't? How can we actually bring that out for certain populations? So there's all sorts of stuff we could talk about with it.
I love that. Let's just hang out here for a sec, because this
Great.
is fun. One of the things that just struck me as you're sharing this is, like, your formation and worldview is just embracing truth.
Yeah.
You're just embracing, like, this is data. This is just objective reality. And I think sometimes that, people can get, we're going to throw an AI layer onto this thing,
Which we do.
Yeah. Right.
So we can talk about that too.
Right. So this is where I'm going. And it's like what we might be worried about when people see AI is like, oh, it's gonna cut out human jobs, or it's gonna be putting machines over people in certain ways. But the way you're using and applying AI in your large data set analysis is to surface the truth in order to better redeem reality.
Yeah, I mean,
how are you using? Yeah, so how are you using it? Am I putting your words in mouth? What are you doing? Yeah.
So there's an AI piece and there's just a data piece. So let me go data first, if that's okay.
Oh, please.
All right. Data does not give us definitive answers. All data does is it should be used like a flashlight. It shows you what questions to ask next. It gives you ideas. It lets you be strategic, right? So you make clearer decisions, but it doesn't solve everything, right? Like we'll go in and we'll build these huge analysis on something, and we'll come back and we'll say, here's all the insights. But now you still have to make a decision about what you want to do. And I've heard so many business leaders be like, this is my metric. And they have this one thing that they're looking at. And very rarely is it about the human beings who work for them. Right? Very rarely. So if we're focused on the wrong things, we're going to drive whatever it is we look at. So you need actually not one number, you need a lot of numbers, and they need to measure different things. And then you need to make a wise decision on all of those. So I love numbers. Hear me. I'm in an analytics space.
Oh, totally. I'm thinking of a car right now. If you only had speed and didn't have RPMs, like you could blow up
or
your
a
engine.
Gas gauge.
Yeah, or a gas gauge. Right.
You could step on the pedal and be like, I am totally succeeding here, and then you run out of gas and get nowhere.
Right.
So you have to have all of the right numbers in front of you to make wise decisions, and then you have to be skilled at interpreting them.
Yes.
And I think this is super important because especially in like a venture capital world where we're going to come in and we're say our bottom line is revenue by this time, these type of returns, this and this, and we drive all sorts of humanity out of the business, and our businesses are going to crash. This is what they do. They burn and they crash, and people break them apart. The best businesses actually go. So here's again, incorporation of faith. Mm-hmm. I believe we were made to work. Like work is a sacred thing that the Lord gives us where we express our identity and we glorify him. Right? And if that's true, it's a sacred honor to give people work. But it means we have to value their dignity and them as a human being before profit, before all these other things. And so the first thing a Catholic business owner has to do is value people first.
Mm-hmm. And I'm seeing it from multiple dimensions now. So you've got the value of human flourishing kind of as the why, and what that looks like in the healthcare space. And you've got these big data sets that aren't giving you answers, but it's giving you questions, information,
direction,
areas that you can probe into and kind of use it like a flashlight. I love that analogy. What's the AI layer on that, and how does that play into the space?
AI is great. I love AI. It's terrifying at the same time. Anybody who's actually studying and watching right now should be terrified, right? But it's not going away. And when you avoid it, you don't do anything. So I explain AI like any other technology. It is just a tool. That's it. And which means we can get really good with the tool and we can use it for good, or people can use tools for bad. I can have a knife that I use to cook and cut, or I can have a knife that I use to kill. And AI is the same way. So we leverage it for what it's good at, doing a lot of organization and clustering and like working on top of the data to get insights out of it. We can throw lots of information into a model and get that information synthesized and brought out, but then we have to quality check it because, in case you haven't noticed, AI can make a lot of mistakes, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to quality check it and you work with it, but it can speed up our work and it can actually let us focus on things that are more human too, right? The idea of like collating a ton of information and sorting it and organizing it, that's interesting. But what's human really is, what does it mean?
Right.
How can we take that and how can we put a layer of meaning on it and interpret it and use it and then create from it and all this stuff, right? So AI has a place. It's wonderful. I mean, we could talk a lot about AI.
Yeah.
I know that's not the purpose of this. But.
No, it's great. So it's because I love that it's just the uniquely human thing would be the act of the will that is decision making. So how much are you getting into the decision making with clients? Like people you're working with?
Oh, tons.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
it's data analytics.
Presenting information, structuring that information, helping them to process and understand what's there and what implications each decision will then make.
Yeah.
And so we lean in. And again, depends on the type of client.
Yep.
Right. But when we come in and all of a sudden we're like, oh my goodness, this procedure, this drug is creating havoc. Like, we're very honest.
Yeah.
Like, this thing should not be on the market, or this thing should be here, or the inverse. Hey, there's actually this unintended benefit. Did you know this was there? Right? Here's what's working. Right?
It's interesting. I didn't even think of that. It's because it's the intentionality that you're using to describe decision making for the, you could take that and apply it as a coach in entrepreneurship. Like, there's, I don't know, 10,000 decisions that hit us a day or something like that.
Take it back to the most simple human. A leader who doesn't know themselves can't make wise decisions. So what kind of information about yourself do you know? Are you taking a yearly retreat, right, to self-reflect, right? One of my favorite Catholic practices, an examine. Every night, do you do an examine? Do you know where you succeeded and failed? Are you using things like personality stuff? Like, I actually used to hate personality tests. Now I love them. You and I think I've had this conversation before.
Yep.
But getting in and understanding, like, what makes me tick? What are my strengths?
Yes.
What are my weaknesses? How do we work together? Like, all of those things of self-knowledge change a leader. But if you don't have the data, you don't have the information, how can you even make good decisions about yourself? And this is at the heart of all layers of decision making, right? Is having the right information, spending the time to get it so you can make a wise decision. And without information, right, we're going to make poor decisions.
Yes.
We don't know that the gas is empty.
No, it's so true. And so much, I can reflect on my own leadership journey, and I haven't prioritized enough time to making good decisions. That's just like it, because what you're talking about requires a lot of focus, a lot of time, a lot of energy.
Yeah.
How would you, when you first meet a new, entrepreneur comes to you, they're excited, they're building a business, or they've got some, good traction, they're in a fellowship group, and they're like, how would you gauge whether or not they're giving enough time towards decision making?
One, I'm listening to hear them use the phrase "time is money," because I think that's it's just not true. There's a partial truth. Again, let's actually say there's a partial truth in it, right? Yeah. That we can prioritize time in such a way that it feels like waste. And I probably should even say, I despise waste. I despise real waste.
Yeah.
I don't believe that planning and reflection is ever a waste. And so what I'm looking for when I'm with a leader and we're coaching on time, I frame it as time as a gift.
I love that.
Right? And if time is a gift, then the question isn't like, it's how do we steward it? How do we unwrap it? Right? And what is the best use of our time? Right? And so we lean in here and just say, look, are you doing basics? Do you have a time every day where you are reflecting on yourself? Do you have a time every day where you're reflecting on the business? Do you have a time every day where you're reflecting on you as a spouse and as a father or a mother? All three of those things have to happen, right? That you're doing self-reflection. If you're not doing that basic, you're guaranteed your time's disordered, right? You're not doing enough. But you got to start there. And then, are there plenty of other places to lean in and leverage that gift of time? Sure. But just do the basics.
Yeah.
Like, am I reflecting every day?
And it's not a 20-minute reflection on each one. It's, hey, am I giving an intentional amount of mind space for whatever degree that
give 5 to each and your life will change.
Love it. I love it.
It's true. It's really hard though, because we get busy and there's this false sense of urgency that creeps in.
Totally. The tyranny of the urgent.
Yeah.
So I so strongly resonate with that, and we're gonna just shift gears in the car analogy here.
Totally fine.
You're coaching a number of people right now. You're leading a business that's redeeming the healthcare industry in a large number of ways, helping enable companies to redeem. What are other areas that are exciting you right now for where Catholics are redeeming something that's broken in industry?
Where Catholics are redeeming something broken. It makes sense doing that. It's probably why I'm involved.
Thanks, man.
I believe that you all are redeeming the broken heart of the leader, right? Who is trying to do their best in business and is exhausted and is tired and feels alone and isolated. So I think, again, you guys, kudos to you all, but I think you're doing that.
Thanks, man.
And I think there's been some incredible ones in media recently too.
Mm,
People have leaned in to tell authentic stories through movies, right, and shows. And you begin to watch some of those things that are happening now and seeing beautiful lives of saints and others kind of come in and done in a professional way rather than hokey.
Mm-hmm.
That's there. I think some of the strongest places, though, aren't in an industry. They're in individual leaders where, man, I could think of some people in my life who I hear about their businesses and I get involved, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my goodness, you've just made this space for people and families to thrive. Like, great, you're $100 million company too, and you're doing amazing stuff, but you've created this space that people don't feel used, right? They feel valued and cared about, and they can have balance. I mean, it's amazing. So I don't know that I would say a specific industry other than, right, the media one. But I see lots of people trying to redeem, whatever it might be in the way they run their companies.
Yeah, no, I love it. You get a unique lens in people's interior life, family life, company culture, like through the position that you're in. So it's a pretty cool angle. This is a question I'd love to just, I'm sure there's multiple examples here. Well, I mean, I shouldn't. Here's the question. You've seen a lot of different businesses, a lot of different industries, and you've led with a people first heart. Can you share a time where you had to sacrifice personally for your team?
Oh man, that happens all the time. This is like a regular occurrence where something does happen, where something, we're in technology, right? Something breaks, something goes wrong. I wish it would always happen in business hours. It doesn't, right? Something happens.
Yep.
We can't ask our staff to lean in and do something that's not the norm, right? It's the extraordinary thing, unless we're willing to do it. So there's plenty of times where something breaks, and I'm like, okay, I'm in, right? Tap in. Here we go.
Yep.
And I want to make sure they don't do it alone, right? If we're going to ask for something extraordinary, and there are those things that happen, right? It's not like every work-life balance isn't about everything's always in this nice, neat little box, but it's that if things happen as an exception, we're willing to go do them because we have to be done. But then we get back into the real rhythms and the structure. So sacrificing time. I think the other thing, we've had a lot to sacrifice cost. And here's what I mean. Like we go to do healthcare, and I want to make sure that my healthcare matches our morals.
Yep.
Right. And so paying sometimes more for health insurance or for a certain type of thing because it matches our morals. Right. That's another place of sacrifice.
Yes.
And there's also a sacrifice, I think, as a leader, might be the most important, is the sacrifice of time to actually really listen to your staff. I mean, I can't tell you how many times someone comes with something and my internal reaction that they don't see, right? My internal reaction is, are you kidding me? I have like 300 things to do right now, and you want to have this conversation. But taking a deep breath and saying, no, this is a real concern for them. People need to feel and understand that I'm present and I'm willing to listen. And so to go through and walk, even if it takes an hour or two, to walk through it with them.
Yes.
And resolve it in a way where it's actually solved. So it's not going to keep coming back up, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Those are also, I think, really big sacrifices that are important.
Yes. That third bucket, the time to actually work through, like you said, multiple hours. This isn't like 5 minutes of hearing and then just kind of moving on. And like people know, hey, maybe I was heard there, but I mean, you shared a bit of it in your kind of how prayer is woven in throughout your day. Mm-hmm. Are there other habits that you have that make sure you've got the emotional capacity and the just presence to show up for your team like that? Somebody comes, you're in the middle of a fast-paced day, you're rolling and you're cruising, and then somebody rolls in with an issue and it's completely unrelated to where your mind was. I've seen you do this. You've shift gears incredibly fast, but that doesn't come without the pre-work to show up. So do you have other habits that help you prime yourself well for excellence on a daily basis? Yeah.
Everyone needs to be coached. You have to have a safe space where you can just be honest. And I'm meaning literally one-on-one. Like you have to have that space where you have a mentor, you have some sort of person who you can be raw and authentic with and unpack those things. Because if you don't, then they spill over onto people unintentionally. And so
like your wife and kids.
Like my wife and kids. Yeah. Right, exactly. Wife,
guilty as charged. Yeah.
Wife, kids, employees, like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So you have to have somewhere in that quiet reflection helps with that too.
Yeah.
But I would say everyone needs to be coached.
Yeah.
And
so you have a coach right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you always had a coach?
No.
Okay.
No. I actually it was way after I started businesses that I had my first executive coach. He was fantastic. I remember being mad at him all the time because he's asked me hard questions. He doesn't even tell me anything. He just asks questions, right?
Yeah.
And I used to, he'd get under my skin and I'm like, what? You're like stirring stuff, buddy. But it needed to be stirred, right? And so, so having a coach is essential. And I think also being a coach. Like you can't be a leader if you're not willing to pour into your people. And I find that those hard conversations are much easier because I'm pouring into them constantly. So we have models in all of our companies right now of a coaching model. So our one-on-ones are not about work. Our one-on-ones are human. They're what behaviors have you done that should be celebrated? What behaviors are there an opportunity for you to change that would make your work environment better? And then we come up with a plan. They're all personal, right? And we lean in.
Personal, but within the work context.
It's not always.
Okay.
Like sometimes we're actually doing family too. Like I have had coaching conversations that end up being about parenting.
Okay.
Because
life coaching conversations. One-on-ones. Yeah.
And we do that in a way so that people can thrive and be happy.
Yep.
Right. And so, so I think
it's interesting.
Be a coach and be coached.
And
that is a huge practical, simple thing that makes an immense difference.
Yes. And I don't think everyone sees themselves as a coach. I know at times I'm like, man, coaching, it gets closer to management. How many people am I able to manage? How many people do you have help me pull apart for folks here. Yeah.
Okay. One of my favorite things.
Yep.
So coaching is not management. It's just not. In fact, we've even at times in our organizations had a role as a coach where someone was coaching everybody and they also had a manager, right? Because coaching really is about how do we get the most out of people? How do we help them understand themselves? How do they grow, right? Management's very, very different. There's nuts and bolts. It's time off and it's performance, reviews, and it's all of those things, which are important and good. And we can talk about doing that in a human way too. But the coaching itself is something totally different. It gives people a space to unpack the mess and to reflect.
Yeah. Is it helpful to have those two separate?
I think it is.
Yeah.
I never do a coaching session coupled with a review. Now, I may coach in a review,
right?
But it's very different type of coaching,
right?
And if you don't see yourself as a coach, here's the only requirement for being a coach. You care about the person in front of you and you're willing to ask the hard questions. You don't have to have any answers. You just have to stir in them, right? Enough so that they can reflect and they have the answers in them. They're going to get there. You just have to keep asking questions.
I love that. What's the difference between a coach and a mentor?
Yeah, a mentor is sharing what they have, right? They're sharing some sort of knowledge or skill or, and you always want a mentor who's ahead of you, right? You want for me, I'd want a father who's further along, who's had the life experience, who can tell me. I want a person in business who's gone through this stuff before and come up. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. A coach is different, right? A coach is asking you questions and probing you because we all need help reflecting sometimes, right? And being able to see it. And so they're walking with us and helping us work through the mess that we have.
Yeah.
Right. So it's very, very different.
And it's what's interesting, just to if I'm hearing and playing back, mentor, you definitely want to, you share in what they've had. They've gone before in an area that you'd like to follow.
You got it.
A coach, it's maybe less about their credentials from that respect. It's not like, oh, you've built a $100 million company.
They can be younger than you. They could not have done the things you're doing.
Right. It's a space for somebody who who cares about you tremendously and who asks very insightful questions. To what extent would you put experience in what you're looking for in a coach?
I mean, it's helpful if they can at least understand, right, where you're at. So my favorite coaches have all been older than me, but I don't know that it was their experience because they weren't in the same verticals. I think their life experience let them ask better questions. And so it unlocked in me things like, oh, I haven't even thought about that.
Yeah.
Or why didn't I think about that?
Well, it's interesting because I think we think in our verticals, we think in our boxes that we put ourselves in, but like you're coaching groups, like there's a lot to be had with cross-pollination between these boxes that we have. Have you experienced that, like learning or seeing from other areas or industries that didn't fall into tech?
I've coached groups that were multidiscipline, right? And I've coached groups that were all in the same. And there's a benefit to both. But I will say, I think people learn more when there's all of the crossover. And they actually find things that apply across vertical that are universal. And so they're helping each other, and it gives them actually new creative juices because they're like, oh, wow, in this space, we haven't thought about that. I've got a tech company, and I've got a company that's in marketing, and I've got a company that's doing this, and all the leaders are like, well, wait a minute, that aligns, and you guys do it that way? Oh, this is amazing. So I think there's all sorts of ways you can attack it and go at it.
100%. I've experienced that in my own businesses. Just like, oh, this person's marketing lens sees different industries. Oh my gosh, that's a brilliant application over in this consumer packaged goods world. Let's take it to the entertainment space.
That's right.
Let's blow that. So mentorship. What do you think entrepreneurs experience when they're trying to find a mentor?
I think it's hard. It's just struggle because you don't know who to ask. You might not even know the person. And when you do ask, a lot of people are busy. So to be honest, there's just not a lot of good mentors. So I have a substitute, which I actually find really helpful.
Yep.
And my brother Josh is the one who really opened me up to this. So Josh found a buddy who it's similar, I would say, like business stages, but they both have different experiences, right? And so they started going out into the mountains and taking a retreat, the two of them, to go in and coach each other. And they would coach and mentor each other every single quarter. And all of a sudden, here's these two guys who are growing immensely because they're in relationship. The other person did know things they didn't know. And they're just sharing that experience. And they built a deep friendship that then caused them both to grow. And so whatever the format is, we don't have to be prescriptive. What we need to do is find people in our life who are willing to bring accountability, to ask hard questions, and to share their life experience. Sounds like a good friend to me.
Yep.
Right? But this is the key to the whole thing. Like we need people to walk with us and to see things we don't see, to ask questions we won't ask or don't know to ask, and to help push us. And so I really think that that's a much more doable model, is to find somebody else who's seeking that and do it together.
Yes. I love that. And one of my hopes in Sent is that by saying, hey, we're serious Catholics. We love the Lord. We're serious about our faith. And we're also serious about these ventures we're building. Yeah. It provides a space for accountability, like true accountability. So I'm curious, in your own life, how have you come to love accountability?
Well, that's a great question. Do you really ever love it? Yes. Yeah. I mean, you do eventually, but probably not in the moment. I think that accountability, what it does is that it frees us to be who God made us to be. It gives us a mirror. I think there's two people in my life who hold me accountable more than anyone else. It's my wife, Molly. And she's a gift. I don't always like it, right? So we're just going to name it.
Yep.
But when she does, it helps me to become better. And it's my brother, Josh. Like the two of them are incredible. And they don't beat around the bush, but they also aren't arrogant and rude either, right? They're direct and kind. And that's a very hard mix to find. right?
Yes.
I've had people who want to hold me accountable who are direct and are arrogant, and that is just so hard to take.
Yeah.
So being able to like get into a space where you can say to someone, this is not okay, and it's not leaning into who you've been called to be.
Yes.
But I still love you and I'm willing to walk with you is a huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
So finding those people who you're willing to let hold you accountable and do it in the right way is huge.
Yes. And they've got to have high standards. So you're not like, oh yeah, you're doing great. Like sometimes I've got some friends who are like, oh, you're doing great. And I'm like, well, I don't think I'm doing great. Maybe my standard's higher than yours. Maybe I need a different accountability metric.
Maybe there can also be a perfectionism that has a
Fair
standard
point.
that's unrealistic for ourselves. So I don't know what that is for you.
Yeah.
But
you know me pretty well. Yeah.
but there may be cases where it's
Sure.
like, actually, you are doing great. And,
Sure.
there's a false pride that wants to push us to do something and be perfect. And
That's
perfect is not what the Lord calls us to.
That's right. I love that. Something you've shared with me on multiple occasions that's been a huge blessing in my life has been your methods for visioning for your family. You knew I was going to bring this up at some point. Like people need that.
I should have known that. I actually hadn't processed it.
Okay.
That's funny.
It's coming.
Okay.
We're here. It's been a huge blessing to me. It's transformed our family. We've done it now for probably 4 or 5 years, modeled off of, accelerated by your conversation, some other things. But what do you do to keep your family, like your companies, rowing in the same direction? And if you want to apply that into the business space, like use that visioning, you got a visioning muscle that's very developed. Like what does it look like?
Sure.
What do you do?
Okay. So there's layers to it. Like all things, if we're going to be excellent at anything, it requires discipline, right? It requires structure and planning and thought. And so my wife and I have had lots of versions of this over the years. The first version of it was we recognized we just needed to be more intentional. And I was teaching at the time. And I had a class in which we would go through St. Benedict's rule. And I would study this with the students. We'd learn all about how like creating a rule frees us, right, to be able to live who God made us to be. And then I would challenge them to write a rule. And I'd been doing this for like 6 years.
Yep.
And it had not occurred to me that I'm challenging them to write a rule for their life, and maybe I should write one for my family. And so my wife and I, she was helping me grade papers, rules, right?
Their rules, not yours.
And then their rules, not ours.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh,
God bless Molly. This is
maybe
great.
we should do this, right? So we attempted to write a rule and looked at what domains in our life needed some sort of basic things, basic structure. And we began to realize that there was physical health, and there was a life of prayer, and there was a life of community, and there was our own relationship, right? And there was relationships with our children. And so we wrote a rule of like, what is the baseline? And then we made it visible, because if you're like me, you recognize that what's not visible doesn't happen. Yep. So we began to make it visible. So that was kind of the first
for your
version.
Family to see,
right? For our family,
yeah.
like
your kids are like, oh, hey, Dad.
And we failed, by the way. Yeah. We it sat out for maybe, I don't know, like 2 months, and then it got put somewhere, and then we forgot about it, and then we found it, and like all the stuff.
Yep.
Then we realized there's more to that. Like we needed more structure. So I'll tell you the final form, and then I need everyone to hear me that this was a lot of work over a lot of years.
Yeah.
The final form now is we have a quarterly planning, where my wife and I, we sit down. It takes us only about half a day. And we say, let's do a review of our family. Like, what's going great? What do we sort of celebrate and keep doing?
Yeah.
What's not going great? It creates sometimes spousal discussions about the way we're communicating. It creates discussions about kids, all this really richness. And then we say, where do we want to improve? And what does our family need right now? Because you can't focus on everything. And this might be the downfall of both business and parents. Fix it all right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's not the way it works.
Mm-hmm.
You need to choose the thing that is the most important to focus on and have a rally cry. One thing that you're going to focus on. So that's what we do. We pick a rally cry and we build goals around that rally cry. and we actually make a visible poster. It's a 16 by 20 poster.
You showed me. I was like, this is amazing. This would scare people off if they'd heard
I
it,
know.
But seeing the whole, in a conversation like this, like you can unpack it. Hey, version 1 ended up on a counter for 2 months and got put somewhere and then got revisited.
Right.
Like, great. Okay.
But that poster that goes up, we then review it as a family and we commit to it. And then we check in on it at dinner.
Yeah.
Right. Like, how are we doing? So we use natural rhythms, right, to reinforce it.
Yes.
One of the things that's always there for my wife and I, and this has been a while now, but we realized we need to check in weekly. And so we check in on our rule that no longer is in a drawer, but we have all these domains that we check in on. So I'm asking her, how are you doing emotionally? How are you doing physically? How is prayer life, right? How are your friendships, right? How are we doing as a couple? How are our relationships with our kids? And we go through that every single week together. It's, maybe 45 minutes to be able to have great conversations. Sometimes it's faster. Sometimes we have a lot to unpack. But checking in on those things. So we're checking in on our quarterly plan. We're checking in on our rule. The kids are involved. There's a place at dinner for us to check in on it. And so it creates, and sometimes we're all over it.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, sometimes you're like, oh, I forgot. Okay, begin again.
Yep.
And that's our theme in our family. Like, just begin again, start over,
it's
right?
Great. No, it's funny because I could see how some people might be intimidated. I was first intimidated by it, but when you see the fruit from it, it's hard to ignore that fruit. You're like, wait, this family is joyful because they're intentional about where their time, energy, they're bettering each other. I know for me personally, that process, spending time away quarterly, was like the first pillar. Hey, if I got quarterly overnights with Casey on the calendar, then there's a space to do it.
Right.
Great. The space is made and it's habit stacking on top of that. And then the thing just kind of snowballs.
Right.
And since then I've taken that same kind of process of, hey, let's just get to a vision for a longer term and then a vision for the year. I've shared it with all my business partners, people I do life with. And the messages I've gotten back have been, I haven't heard this anywhere. It's been transformative. So I just want to say thank you for sharing with me, because it's bearing fruit for tons and tons of people.
It's good. It also, so to be totally candid, it's great on the other end when you're like tired and you're like, should I keep putting the effort into this? And then, right, to see it from fresh eyes re-encourages you, and you go back and you're like, okay, I got this. Here we go.
Yes.
It's amazing.
No, I love it. I'm so blessed by it. And so it's because what you're describing is basically the intentionality that most people put towards their business. You're just putting towards your family. Like, I think most businesses would say, hey, if you didn't review how your business is doing at least once a quarter, you're probably not going to have a business very long.
That's right.
Was that the sort of connection that got made for you on the family side, or did you?
Honestly, what struck me when we started doing the quarterly, I read a book. So I'd been doing consulting, I'd been teaching EOS, I had been doing all sorts of like operating systems and discipline, lots of consulting. And I read this book that was given to me called 3 Big Questions for a Frantic Family. And they're like, oh, if you like Lencioni and you like EOS, you're going to love this book. And it's Lencioni's reflection of how many years he did this for his business, but not for his family. And it tells his story. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's like right in the heart, Like, yeah. And so I had Molly read it and we started talking, and that was the start of the whole thing.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, man. It's been a huge blessing. That's great. All right. I've got one more question and then rapid fire.
Oh, rapid fire. Yes, this is going to be good.
You've hit on a few already, so I'll have to be extra tricky here, but no, it's the rapid fire is just common phrases that people hear in business and whether or not you agree or disagree.
Okay.
But before we get to that.
Okay. Oh, you prepped it.
Yeah.
I was ready.
I got all excited. I just, you do so many different things. You know what? Let's just dive into rapid fire.
Great.
And I'm going to say this for the very, very, very end.
Okay.
Agree or disagree? For the Christian, time is always in your favor.
Time is always a gift, so I'd probably answer agree.
Wonderful.
Do you need
longer
answers?
No.
Yes or no?
You can fire it off quickly. Yeah.
Okay.
That one throws people for a loop sometimes, but you mentioned it earlier, and it's been deeply formative in my life, starting to see time as actually a gift. I think we can see it as we're working against it.
I'm working for eternity. So it just gives me an opportunity to keep running at it.
That's great. I love it. You can't move what you can't measure.
You can't move what you can't measure. Well, you can move it. I disagree. You can move it. You just might move it in the wrong direction, in the wrong way, and you might hurt someone in the process.
I like it. To innovate, you need to move fast and break things.
Oh man, that's a twisted truth right there. To innovate, you do not need to move. Well, actually, hold on. Here's the key. You should move fast, but you'll do it by moving slow. Like by actually taking a moment to pause and reflect on direction first, and then seeing something all the way through. So it's not the speed alone that causes you to innovate. It's the focused speed.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Eat your own food.
Eat your own food?
Eat your own cooking. Eat your own food. Like when someone's putting out a product, you're like, hey, don't put out anything that you wouldn't personally use.
Oh, I agree with that.
Agree with that.
Yeah, totally agree with that.
Time is money.
Time is a gift. I just don't buy that.
Yeah.
Plus, money is a tool. So
I love it. People are your greatest asset.
Without a doubt. Second to the Lord.
Don't let your emotions influence business decisions.
Oh, this one. Okay. This one I'm going to take a moment.
Yep.
What I tell my children probably once a week, right, is that emotions are wonderful servants and terrible masters. So we need emotion in their rightful place. It actually helps us to have resolve and to do the things we're supposed to do. But if they're leading and if they're in front, they make terrible decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to be emotional as a servant, right, to your mind and your intellect and discernment. So discern well and then let those emotions drive.
Love it. Love it. Do you have a popular belief that you think startups hold or high growth companies hold that's just not true?
Yeah, we've talked about it. I hate the hustle culture.
Yeah.
I hate it with a passion.
Yeah.
It's not true. I also think that everyone believes that the first few years have to be this no holds barred, sprinting, chaotic mess. And I'm living proof now in my new venture that doesn't have to be the case. Like it does require work and there is some messiness, but maybe the mess was more me when I started it up when I was young than it was the company in the startup mode.
That's great. That's wisdom. All right, last question. This is not a rapid fire, but this is just something I would love to know for you because you've got so many different businesses that you run. You also make time for coaching because you love it and you have a heart for people. Hyper intentional with your family. How do you decide where to put time and energy?
Oh man. I'm going to be slower to answer this one because I don't think it's a one-time thing. I believe our Lord has seasons and we have to discern in each season what he's calling us to. I remember my wife and I, this is a lot of years ago, we were coming home from like our 6th soccer game. I was coaching 3 teams where our kids, they were all young. We had all 5 of them were young and we were just going chaos. And we were in that moment, we were in the minivan coming back from the soccer games. I coached, we'd done nothing all weekend but go to games.
That moment, yeah.
And we're in there and we look at each other like, why are we doing this? Right? And every parent who's got, especially big families, come this moment, you're like, oh, this is terrible. And we're like, I don't know. So we went home and we poured ourselves a bourbon and we sat down and we're like, what do we really actually want? And we made a decision that night to stop. So we actually finished the season and stopped doing all the activities. And we said we need one activity that gives us what we want, builds the family culture. And so we started rock climbing as a family in the next season because it had no games on the weekend. It gave us something we could do outdoors together. And we're like, it's all of us. I love to climb. I could teach all the kids. We're going to go to a gym, climbing gym. We're going to do all this stuff. And we started rock climbing. And within 6 months, all these other families stepped out of activities and started joining us at rock climbing. And now we had a community, and they were learning to like master their body, and there was physical exercise. There was all the things we wanted, and they had community, but we weren't going nuts. So I think when we're talking about what you say yes and no to, it's the same secret. You have to slow down and discern, and then be willing to say no to good things to say yes to something better. But you have to know what the better is, right? And then you just simplify. And if there's a season where you're saying no to something, that doesn't mean forever. You're just saying no to it for a season. So when we discern, right, we literally weigh it out. We mark it up like, what's important, what's not, what's the greatest value for us in this? What do we want to achieve?
And the kids. Yeah.
Whoever's making the decision.
Yeah.
I do this with my sons when they're doing college.
Yeah.
We literally got on a whiteboard and we're like, what do you really care about?
Yeah.
And once we had out that they cared about community, they wanted an incredible engineering program.
Yeah.
They wanted a liberal arts education, not just the engineering. Well, that sure limited a lot of schools, right? How do we get them something that has that kind of like classic education into it? All these different pieces, right? Does cost matter to you? Do you care about debt? Do you notice it's all questions?
Yep.
And once we started asking them questions, which they never would have asked, they could clearly see. And they're like, oh, this is where we want to go to school, right? Do you care about it being a Catholic school? And ironically, I thought they would say yes. And they said no, as long as we have a great Newman Center where there's a Catholic culture, but it doesn't have to be the school's culture. The school can be whatever. I'm like, oh, okay. Well,
yeah. You were putting a parameter on it that
didn't need.
They didn't even see it. Yeah.
Right. And so it just changed a lot of different things. So the discernment is really asking the hard questions, discern well, and then just be willing to say no to good things.
And do it collaboratively with the people in the decision-making process with you. That's something I struggle with, is like, how do you or making the time or space and setting to what you're describing as a whiteboard with your kids. Like, I'd be curious, how many business leaders have had a whiteboard session with their kids for key decisions? Whiteboards are helpful.
They are very helpful. I would agree.
I've seen a couple of them in your office. Well, Jeremy, I know we got time here, so we got to wrap it up, but I'm so grateful for your friendship, for your example, for the ways that you've blessed me in my life and my marriage, as a father, as a husband, and just as a leader. I'm still learning from you, and it'll be great to continue our friendship long into the future.
Nick, thanks, buddy. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Big thanks to Spirit Juice Studios and their team for hosting us and helping make this possible. If you liked this show, if you could like and subscribe, and if you could also check out centventures.com if you're building a business and want to do it with your faith front and center.